We came here to be fed this morning, and we have a picnic going on today. That's nice. It's wonderful to be fed in that way, but there's another kind of feeding, and it's a spiritual feeding. Every Sunday, in fact all week, I pray, give me the food to feed these souls. And in your life, I want you to think about the souls with whom you work. In your family, your loved ones, your neighbors, your working situation. And I want you to join with me saying, give me the food to feed these souls. Together? Give me the food to feed these souls. And then let it come forth. Put yourself in that spirit of service, that spirit of, okay, I know that there's a higher something. And I don't want it to be some tangible outer thing. I want it to be even deeper, something that makes the biggest difference. I knew a surgeon once who, working in a hospital with his team, was dealing with people of all kinds of belief systems. And before every surgery, he wanted to lead them in some kind of prayer, but what he came up with that would be politically correct was, had everybody hold hands, and they made their circle, and they just said, let us do that which is needed most. Let us do that which is needed most here. So it's like everybody can tap into that, because let's de-glamorize our spirituality. Oh, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You shall have no other gods before you. We have all these concepts about God, but God is not a concept. God is an experience. Your spirituality is an experience. It's not something you can learn. You know, we got a new member class coming up on Tuesday night, and I'm not trying to do an infomercial here. But when I first came here, I did a new member class, and you know, if you take everybody in this room, you came up through the Catholic Church and had catechism, or you had Lutheran, your confirmation, or you grew up in Judaism, you grew up in some place where you had to learn the rules. And you know, there's nothing wrong with structure. There's nothing wrong with that. But in our new member class, I remember the first time I taught it here, we started off with our talking about our spiritual journey, you know, ourselves as people, and then how we spiritually came into this understanding and what brought us here, and we moved with that. And then we went even deeper. We went into the Dow Jones Industrial Averages of our spiritual growth. If you want to know what that is, come Tuesday night. If you're not a member, don't come to join the church. Come for a spiritual experience, because that's all this church is. It's a shared spiritual experience. It's not a thing, a building, a place. It's not a set of beliefs. You know, Carl Jung said beliefs are no substitute for experience. You know, we want to have the beliefs so that we can avoid the experience. You know? Because that experience might rock my world. I want my spiritual experience to rock my world. Together, I want my spiritual experience to rock my world. So we do the Dow Jones Industrial Averages of our life spiritual journey, and it's about the ups and the downs, and it looks like a Dow Jones chart. That's why I called it that. And we share that with each other, and the people in that group, that small group of 5 or 6 people, get to know each other spiritually at a more deep and profound level than they know the members of their extended family. They've told me that. And then we talk about a spiritual question. You know, something real. Maybe something that you think you know the answer of and you want to maybe know more about. Or maybe it's something you don't think you know the answer of. You're struggling with it. You're puzzling about it. You know, that's where you're going to have your spiritual experience, at your greeting edge, at the place where you go, oh, I don't think I can do this. Oh, I don't really understand that. That's the place where the spiritual experience shows up. God shows up at the place where you say, I don't know. I don't know, but I want to know. And so we talk about that. And I don't give them the answers. It's not catechism. I'm not a priest. No offense to anybody, but just that's not my role. So people talk to each other about what they think. People bring it out to themselves. And then they discuss it among themselves. And only then do they bring it to me as a minister, and I give them my informed take on it, you know? And that's all I've got. It's all I've got, because I can't substitute a spiritual experience for you. You say, but I want a spiritual experience. How do I get one? You got to desire it. You've got to desire it. Jesus said you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You must love your neighbor as yourself. He's saying generate the desire, the pearl of great price, the treasure in the field. Want it so much. And that's what meditation is. Generating a desire energy and then stepping into The energy that comes forth from that desire. The desire for what? That's exactly it. How do you describe the experience? How do I describe the experience of riding a bicycle? You don't know anything about a bicycle. You've never seen one. You don't know anything about it. You're from another planet. And you say, what is riding a bicycle? I can't explain it to you. I'll give you a book on it. A spiritual book on how to ride a bicycle. It came to me this week. That's like taking a picture of roast chicken and licking it and thinking it's going to taste good or give you a feeling of being full. Spiritual books. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have spiritual books, but even in Unity's, this is a very typical Unity thing. In Unity's primary spiritual book, Lessons in Truth, she writes in that book, do not read many books. Because it's about getting an experience. Have an experience. Have that desire. Don't lick the pages thinking you're going to get full. That's not it. So on Tuesday night, what we do, and come. If you're not a member, just come for the spiritual experience. It's an experience. The only thing that matters in life is your spiritual experience. Spiritual substance, which is that invisible something that dwells within you and experiences through you, that kingdom of heaven, in the now moment, is the only thing that is valuable. It's the only thing that matters. How do you open up to it? Where are you going to find it? Where are you going to find it? The children of Israel, very, very primitive, philosophically, but there's some real nuggets of gold in there. I love this wonderful quote right after in Exodus. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord. You shall have no other gods before me. And then it says, and if you will make me an altar of stone, do not build it of cut stone, because if you lift a tool upon it, you've polluted it. Well, what does that mean? Well, Emmett Fox tells us, and this was sent out by Sir John Templeton, who was at the time worth $500 million, and he was talking about, it's not about the outer stuff. It's not about those things. It was about sourcing in something invisible. And he said, the secret of success in prayer is be direct, simple, and spontaneous. The Israelites were told, don't polish, don't square, or otherwise elaborate their altars. Just use a rough and ready pile of stones. Effective prayer is something direct and immediate. That's what this means. As soon as you begin to elaborate, you might be using your intellect, and with the intellect you cannot get spiritual content. The intellect is an excellent thing within its own strictly limited sphere, but whenever you feel that you're being clever or literary, you may be enjoying yourself, but be certain you're not praying. And then he talks about how if a tiger jumped through the window right now, you would pray, but it wouldn't be elaborate, it wouldn't be intellectual, it would be direct and simple, and he said, and you would probably get a demonstration. He said there's a very practical lesson in this example. The reason why people usually get the most remarkable answers to prayers in the times of greatest emergency is because at such times they are simple, direct, and spontaneous. So what that situation that you're looking at is bringing to you is an opportunity to not elaborate, not equivocate, not intellectualize, but move into a present moment experience that is real, And you've got to desire it. It's got to be real. You've got to make it real. I had this happen to me once 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. I was working as a parts manager at a Mazda dealership, and we were wrapping up packaging and sending back to the factory the big rotary engines because they were all failing. They'd had a design flaw, and at that point they were all failing. So every day we would take these big rotary engines, and on pulleys we'd put them into crates and we'd ship them out. Well, I don't know what was going on that day, but I was the guy underneath, and I had my hand underneath, and I don't know what happened, but the guy let go of the pulley, and a rotary engine fell on my left hand and crushed my left hand. Now, I was a church organist. This was a Thursday, and I was in terrible pain. They took me to the hospital, and the first thing they said is, you want a pain shot? And I thought, thinking they were going to help me soon, no, I don't need a pain shot, whatever. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. Now, I was in Oakland, California, and in an emergency room, if you're not a gunshot wound, they're going to wait, even though this is not life-threatening, even though I was in pain. And I waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and my anxiety level was raising because will I ever be able to play the organ again? Will I ever, I couldn't move anything. So I finally said, yes, please give me a pain shot. Mistake. I had a reaction. I felt like simultaneously I was falling asleep and jumping out of my skin. I really felt I was going crazy. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, well, it has to be strong in order to kill the pain. And I said, I want the pain. And they put me in a little room, a quiet room with dim lights, and they just set me there. They still didn't take care of my hand. So I'm sitting there and I cannot think. I cannot get a thought formulated in my head. I want to do my affirmations, my denials, my visualizations, my something, and I can't do any of it. All I could get myself gathered up to say is, help. And when I said it, I went, shh. I felt a whoosh. I felt all that stuff leave my body, I swear, and I was totally conscious and sober, and the pain went away. And I came out, and it was another 15 minutes or so. They took me in, they x-rayed it, and there was nothing wrong with my hand. Now, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with my hand before, because I can't prove that, but I know how I felt. I mean, I drove myself home, and I was perfectly okay. Why? Because I didn't have any choice. You've got situations in your life where you say, how do I deal with this? And the way that you can deal with it only through having a God experience. You say, but I want an answer. But yeah, your answer is a God experience. Sir John Templeton understood that if he was trying to do all this investment stuff, all these people, the only way he was going to have prosperity is through a God experience. You know, we're going to have a class in about 3 weeks on, it's called Prosperity Plus 2. It's Mary Manna Morrissey's video series. It's her next video series. And people ask, why do you do these prosperity series? It's because, not for materialism. It's because people have false gods. Now, you know that the children of Israel had false gods. I love this one from Joshua. He says, now, in all sincerity and faithfulness serve God. Put away those false gods, the lesser gods that your fathers served beyond the river in the Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if you're unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day who you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So what are your false gods? Materialism, fear, scarcity. Those are two different sides. Mammon, that was a false god. That was a false god that they believed in. Jesus said, you cannot have two masters. You're going to hate one and love the other, or cling to one and throw another one away. So you cannot love both God and Mammon. Mammon was the Philistine god of materialism, and they used to sacrifice babies to it. They sacrificed their life force energy, symbolized for stuff. On the other hand, there's scarcity. That's not enough. I can't. What is the name of your false god? Because your false god, once you identify it, bring your energy back to God as your source. That's why we do series, in order to get in touch with the spiritual principles that when you align with them, you have a God experience, and then you source in that which never runs out, which will be a fountain that will constantly refresh, constantly renew you. Where in your life do you have a false god? What do you call your false god? We don't call our false gods Baal or Beelzebul or any of those gods that they had in the Old Testament. We call them, ain't it awful? Or I'm a victim. Or I can't. Or I won't. Or I'm just going to sit here, you know, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to sit eat worms. That's a false god. You know, that hopeless victim. All those things are false gods. What? So you say, but I've got a real need. For what good purpose is your soul choosing to experience that situation in your life? You know, you're in a situation with a relationship. What do? I draw a line. Everything above the line is my spiritual consciousness, my spiritual guidance, all that good spiritual stuff. And below the line is where I am right now. And I say, I know there's an answer here. I know there's an answer, but I don't know what it is, but I'm willing. You see, desire is that which, when you generate it, is the source of everything good in the universe. Desire, but you got to desire it. So, okay, I don't know what it is. I don't know the answer here, but I want to know. When you have a need financially, when you have a need for healing, when you have a need for some kind of answer, some kind of guidance, desiring it and then moving into a space of, well, I'm open to it. I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to experience it. Where in your life is a God answer waiting for you? and it's through a God experience. I first experienced this directly when I was 15 years old. I was on the way back from the Youth of Unity conference, and there was a girl, and I still have contact with her through Facebook, who I was sitting reading some hippie comic, and she sat next to me, and she metaphysically interpreted all the cartoons in the comic. And it was really deep stuff. It wasn't intellectual. And I'm going, wow, what is this? So we started talking about past lives and started talking about spiritual things. It got to the point, and I know not everybody's going to accept this, we were just looking at each other and knew what the other one was thinking. And I just had this complete opening up, and she just got up and silently walked away. And I went between the cars looking out of the West Texas desert on the way back to California on the train from Unity Village. And I just knew. I knew. Now this summer, last month, I took my kids to see my grandma, or their grandma, my mom, and she's selling her house. She's lived in it for 53 years, and she's selling it this month. And I went down to the basement and I looked at some of my old stuff, and I found my journal, my very first journal, the one that I started as a result of that God experience. That God experience, if you have one God experience, you can never put the stuff back in the box. You know, it's like, and I always talk about when you get something from Amazon and you want to send it back, you've opened it up and you got all the packaging, you'll never get it back in the box. You know, once you have a God experience, you'll never have things the same. You want to go back to what's safe, what's comfortable, but you'll never do it. So I looked at my journal and I read the words. My first words I wrote in my very first journal was, "The pressure cooker lid has been taken off." It's like, wow, I was 15. It was like, and I started journaling. I started really meditating. I started the process, and I knew the purpose why I was here. I knew why I was here. When I was looking out at the West Texas desert, I could experience, and I couldn't put words to it, but I knew. And I knew it had something to do with growing spiritually. Seek first the kingdom, and all the things will be added unto you. But the way you do that, how do you do that? By desiring spiritual service in everything. Whatever you think is going on in your life, it's a God experience. Whatever you think is your problem right now, it's a God experience. And whatever you think you need in your life, it's a God experience. And often, these things test us. Are you really going to give spiritual backup to what you profess? Edwene Gaines shared with me privately, I don't think it's in any of her writings, something that was a test she felt she was being provided with. She, of course, is a famous spiritual teacher, prosperity teacher, and she's all about service. Any group that asks her to come speak, she has them do it for a love offering, and she will come and receive a percentage of the love offering, and that's it. And she will say yes to any. And so she got a call from a little study group. It wasn't even a church, a little study group in Kansas somewhere, in a little farm town. And they called her and they said, "We want you to come." And she said, "Okay." And she decided she was going to come. And right thereafter, she got a phone call from South Africa, from a big convention that was going to be held, a spiritual convention in South Africa. And they were going to fly her first class to South Africa, and she was going to be the keynote speaker for this week-long thing. And they were going to tour her, and they were going to put her up in first-class hotels, and they were going to have all these experiences for her to have. And she said, "You know, that's great. I want to do it. I'll do it. But I just got to straighten something out first," because she knew that they'd understand. I mean, they were a small group. They could meet anytime. So she called them up, and she said, "Hi, I got this great opportunity." And they said, "Oh, I'm sorry. We've already sent out our flyers." And she said, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, we sent out 50 flyers to people, and so we've already made a commitment, so no, you're going to have to come." And her response was, but you don't understand. I mean, she tried to, sell them on the idea that, "Hey, I'll come the next week, I'll come the week before, I'll do whatever you want, but don't, no. You have to have lived in Kansas to understand this." So it's like, they would not do it. And she just said, and she knew. She said, "I knew it was a test." And she said, "Don't think that I didn't kick and scream." She got off the phone and said, "Thank you." And she called South African people and she said, "I'm sorry, I cannot make it. Thank you." She wrote her journaling, she said, was very choice. A lot of stuff. She let it all hang out. She did her forgiveness work. She did all of this. because it was there to get her to grow and to open up a new spiritual dimension. She really is about service? Okay, how about this one? And she did that. And something interesting happened. She showed up there. She paid her expenses, which was many times more than she received for going there. She showed up for the service. There were 13 people. 12 of them showed up for her seminar. And that group of 12, they were very proud. They said it was the biggest offering they'd ever had in that church. It was $150. And they were so proud. And they were just so happy. And she went home much poorer than she was when she started. And she showed up at home, and there was a check waiting for her for $10,000 that came out of that experience. And she said 2 of the people who went to that 12-person seminar became unity ministers and identified that was the time that they decided it was serving a higher purpose. Now in your life you say, oh, God doesn't test us. Well, I don't know who's testing us, but somebody's testing it. We get a chance to find out, and it's not like some parental thing. It's where are you going? Who will you serve? Who are you going to serve? He says the gods your father served in the region beyond the river. Are you going to serve the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Not the gimme gods, not the lesser gods, not the foreign gods, not the ain't it awfuls, and you know what, there's nothing wrong with facing your problems and dealing with it, but you know the difference between ain't it awful and actually dealing with and processing your feelings. Not the grandiosity, oh, I'm going to be wonderful, oh, I'm going to be great, oh, I'm going to fly first class to Southern, I'm going to do all these great things. No. Who do you serve? And when you want a God experience, when you make it about a God experience, when the God experience is the only thing you want, then and only then you will receive everything you need to back up that God experience with spiritual experience. And nothing else will ever satisfy you. You say, we're going to have some great food out there. But there's nothing out there that's going to fill you up. And if you think it is, it's like licking the paper with the picture of chicken on it. It's not going to give you the spiritual substance that you need that will fill you, nourish you, and even taste good. What is that spiritual substance? It dwells within you. It's calling for you. See, but you want me to be in a cubicle somewhere and pray 24 hours a day? What is it he's talking about here? No, I'm saying identify in your life that which grows your spiritual consciousness, that which gives you a sense of spiritual something, and do more of it. And then look in your life at the things that are taking away from that, and do less of it. Like I identified at one point not that many years ago that I was spending an hour on Saturdays watching the NFL pregame special, and then an hour on Sunday mornings before the first of the 2 games I watched, and then an hour afterwards of the postgame, and then the hour and a half program on Monday nights leading to the Thursday night half. This was great for my marriage. And, I finally realized, what am I getting out of this? Especially with the Bears. Actually, though, they did really well last night. And then you ask yourself, how does he know that? But I do know. But it's okay, you can have a life that's balanced, but look into your life and say, okay, where am I going to place my energy? Where am I going to place the investment of my soul? I'm going to place it in my spiritual something. I'm going to put it in my spiritual bank account. And seek first the kingdom, and all the things will be added unto you. So, where in your life can you do that? And you say, I don't have the capacity to be some kind of great mystic. Charles Fillmore said unity is Christian mysticism practically applied to your everyday life. It's about your everyday life. It's not about going after the woo-woo this and the big crystal that and the big... it's not about reading many books. It's about having a spiritual experience in the now moment. Everybody can laugh. We've got laughter yoga. Everybody can sit in a chair and open up. We've got Tuesday night meditation at 6 o'clock. We have our Tuesday night new member class where we're going to share a spiritual experience. We are about spiritual experiences and having spiritual experiences, and that looks kind of boring. There's no hype to it. I mean, this is true. About 25 years ago, I took leadership in a church. that it had a lot of excitement, way too much. And they had so much drama and so much this and so much that. And it came to me meditation, and I was kind of scared to do it. And I got up my first Sunday and said, we're going to do simple church. And simple church is just about spiritual growth, and we're not going to do anything new for a year. Now, that wouldn't fit somewhere else, but there they just need, and because there were a million people that want to do a million things, and all the people that couldn't wait that year, they'd say, oh, I want to do this. We've got 9 months left. Let's wait. And the people that couldn't do it, they left. And those who stayed were about spiritual growth, and then we did it. Now, that's not true here. That is what we need to do here. But in your life, what do you need to offload? In your life, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to put on your stop doing list in order to focus just a little bit more on your spiritual growth? I think I've yammered enough. So let's just open ourselves up and generate that desire. That desire, that seek first the kingdom desire. What is it that you most want? You want to be filled. You want to have a sense of purpose. That whether or not you get that outer thing you've been praying about, that would be nice. But that you would have with you, inside you, no matter what. And this is what I want. I want to be fed. I want real spiritual food. I don't want secondhand. I want the real experience, something real. And in this moment, I take whatever needs I have and I place them in this basket of my desire for that which is real. I know that my real answer, whether I want healing or something else, is a God experience. And in that understanding, in my commitment, I generate the desire, which I will back up, which will bear fruit. And I'm willing to do everything every day to back up that desire, to take that time, to make that soul focus what I truly desire. Thank you, God. We are hungry for a God experience, not just for a picnic. And that soul hunger is that part of us that is looking in the outer world for answers, but not finding them. And so we want to get the real answer. So if you will, set aside all papers in your hands that may distract you. Open your hands and open up to a God experience. Breathe in, let it go. Move into this now moment experience. Take the future and let it go. In this now moment experience, everything is already fulfilled. The only answer that we can ever get as expressions of God is to tap into that God expression that we are. And to feel the fulfillment in the now moment. We feel our essence. We feel the energy. I am an experience of God. Whatever I've been seeking after, whether it's healing or harmony or abundance or answers, the answer I really want is the fulfillment of my soul. The fulfillment of my soul. And that fulfillment of my soul is my spiritual identity. I seek first the kingdom. I love the Lord my God with all my soul, mind, energy, my strength. I set aside everything in my mind. I set aside everything in my emotions. I set aside everything physically, and I move into this now moment experience. God is an experience. My answer is an experience. As a fully realized expression of God, I live and move and have my being in a wholeness that has no opposite, in an answer that is already fulfilled. If I'm looking for guidance, my answer's here. If I'm looking for wholeness, God in me is wholeness. If I want reconciliation and harmony, oneness, harmony, love, these are my attributes as God's perfect expression. I move my attention to this now moment, and every need is already met. Every experience is complete and whole. And in this now moment, I rest. I feel the energy. I open up like a flower in the sunlight, and I feel this peace. Thank you, God, for something real. Thank you, God, for the experience in the now moment of my spiritual essence, the energy, the life, the vibration, the harmony, the healing, the peace, the abundance, the guidance that is God. I am fulfilled in this now moment, and whenever I get any thoughts running through my head, I just say, I am already fulfilled. And I bring myself back to this kingdom of heaven consciousness that I seek first, and I find my rest. Thank you, God, and so it is. Yeah. So in this now moment, we are ready to give, and I give in the spirit of service, and I receive abundantly. Together.
I give in the spirit of service, and I receive abundantly.
And silently. And again aloud together.
I give in the spirit of service, and I receive abundantly.
And so it is. Amen.